Shri Varadari. Nama Sankirtana ki Jai, Prabhupada ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamsha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Vatikana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, welcome back. Everybody had a nice Radhashtami festival last week?
Yes.
Very special. This is a very full week of also very auspicious days. We had Ramandev's appearance on Dwadashi. We had Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance day, Wednesday. And we had Srila Haridas Thakur's disappearance day yesterday. Vishwarup Mahotsav yesterday. And today? The day Srila Prabhupada took sannyas. On the day of Bhadra Purnima. Actually today is Vishwarup Mahotsav, not yesterday. Today is. Yesterday was just Haridas Thakur's disappearance day. So very auspicious days. So I thought we'll discuss today chapter 10 verse 9, the second verse of the Chatur Shloki, and then time permitting we'll discuss a little bit about Srila Haridas Thakur's disappearance, which is so beautifully described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So last time we discussed verse 8. What was the conclusion of verse 8? And now we're going back 2 weeks, so everybody has to jog their memory. But what was the conclusion of verse 8? Something we learned from verse 8.
Krishna is the cause of everything.
Krishna is the cause of everything, yes.
Everything material and spiritual emanating from Krishna.
Everything material and spiritual comes from Him. And what is the conclusion of understanding that? Yes.
That we should proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness.
Yes. That is Srila Prabhupada's closing to the purport, right? That we should proceed with determination and firmness. It is raining out. Oh, I'll stay home. There's always some obstacles. Always. Right? But knowing Krishna to be the source of everything, ham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. It means that Krishna is the source of everything. So the conclusion we must draw then is, what is the conclusion Krishna is trying to help us achieve by stating, I am the source of everything? Is he trying to make himself feel good? No. What is he trying to cement in our heart?
Surrender unto me.
Surrender unto Him. And why is surrender unto Him the factual conclusion if He is the source of everything? We talk about exclusive devotion, right? Pure bhakti. So, by knowing that Krishna is the source of everything, how can that inspire us to pure bhakti?
By serving Krishna, who is the source of everything, we might have an expectation that He'll take care of us.
Okay. So, and you said we might have, like, maybe we shouldn't have an expectation, you're right? But Krishna already said, right, in the prior chapter, 9th chapter, that I'll protect you. I'll take care of everything. I'll preserve what you have and carry what you lack.
Yes.
Both sides, he said. Whatever you don't have, I'll bring. Don't worry, it's in my basket. And whatever you have, I'll protect. So he's given an assurance. Right? But pure bhakti means we have no other attachments. Right? So by knowing Krishna as the source of everything, how does that bring us to pure bhakti? This is a very important conclusion. The whole reason Krishna is speaking this chapter.
Don't have to look elsewhere.
We don't have to look out. Why? Yes, you're right. Keep going.
You have originated from me, I am the cause of everything, and you are going to come back to me. And of course, I've been the protector, and so any other steps you take may just delay your coming, but it's a straight line path. So if you are thinking about me, that's the fastest route to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only basically we have to please him. That's the only way we can get the happiness too. So that's why we need to surrender unto him. Why look anywhere else for any other way to satisfy? Because he is the only one who can satisfy also.
Okay. Yeah, that is the only way. When we are in mixed bhakti, we're not pure bhakti. It means we have some other attachments, right? How to get rid of those other attachments? By knowing Krishna is everything. So this is a very important point. Remember the 7th verse. Krishna said, one who is factually convinced of this opulence of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. So, again, this is a critical point we must cement in our heart. That whatever we are attracted to, whatever we may be attracted to, Krishna possesses in full. So if I have some, rasa towards, I think you used last time, cricket, whatever enjoyment comes from that happiness, Krishna possesses in full. Because everything comes from Krishna. So by definition, the source has to have the full amount, right? And I gave the example of the plug here. The plug here has some power, but that power is just a fraction of the power from the generating station. The station completes has the whole power, and then it is subdivided. So like that, by understanding that Krishna is the source of everything, it's not just saying, okay, you look around and you surrender to me. That he has already said in 7th chapter. He said, everything is my apara shakti. So you have no choice. You are dependent on me. It is only a question of whether you are going to allow Maya to separate us by illusion. That he has already said. But now he is trying to inspire how out of love, not out of knowing I have no other choice, but out of love to come to Krishna. And by understanding that he is the source of all opulences, everything that is sweet, that is pleasurable, that is enjoyable, it comes from Krishna. And that is why he is saying, I am the source of everything. Not to show his power and strength, but to show whatever you may be attached to in this material world, no, it is but a spark of my splendor. That is what he'll say at the end of this chapter. It is but a tiny fragment. So are we going to try to enjoy the tiny fragment, or are we going to try to enjoy the whole? Just like if it's cold outside and there's a spark coming from the fire, are you going to try to warm up from the spark, or are you going to go to the fire where there is a seemingly endless supply of heat? Then go to the source. So Krishna is saying, I am that source. And that is why when we are factually convinced of this, there is only one conclusion. Worship Krishna. Engage in loving service with Krishna. Why else you would go anywhere else? I'm looking here for some happiness, but I know, wait a minute, Krishna is the source of even this. So instead of going to one of the creations, I go to the source. He has already said in the 9th chapter how he reciprocates with his devotees in so many loving ways. But this opulence, we should be convinced of, right? So that is why he said, I am the source of everything. And then the wise who perfectly know this, what do they do? What do they do? Huh? They
Engage in my devotional service
and worship me. Keep going.
with all their hearts.
With all their hearts. Right now we are worshiping Krishna with part of our heart. That's good. Right? We are in a progressive stage of coming to pure devotional service. So how to worship with all our heart? We must be convinced of this. Aham sarvasya prabhu, atas sarvam pravartate. So this is a very important first verse of this Chaturshloki section of Bhagavad Gita. Okay? And Srila Prabhupada dedicates the most of the purport to the topic of who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay? So now let's just read the 9th verse and the purport. Because from here, one who engages in pure devotional service, what do they do? And what is the result of pure bhakti? If I want to be, I'm enjoying some things, but now I'm saying, wait a minute, Krishna is the source of everything. Well, if I worship Krishna, there should be some result from that. So Krishna is saying, stay tuned. Hear what the result is. Here's what the pure devotee does. Here's their activity. And here is the result. Because sometimes when you say, oh, if you become a devotee, you do nothing. There's no fun. What do you do? What do you people do? Right? I'm sure many of you have been asked this question, right? You don't drink, you don't do this, you don't go to cinemas. What do you do? I don't know. So Krishna is telling us, here's what the pure devotee does and the result of such activity. So shall we read it? Okay, someone wants to read we can just read the translation and we'll read the purport paragraph by paragraph.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo.
No, next one.
Oh, sorry.
9.
Sorry.
No problem.
Bachita mat gadaprana bodhayanta parasparam kathyantascha mam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Purport. Pure devotees, whose characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing Him with other devotees. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish in the transcendental pleasure of the service itself, and in the mature stage, they are actually situated in the love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection, which is exhibited by the Lord in His abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them, there are a few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies, just as the seed of a tree. Just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering, the spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahma Jyoti effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky also, the plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Golaka Vrindavan, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as a plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. This plant of devotional service is fully described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 19. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in the love of God. Then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. In such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees. As stated in the Bhagavatam itself, 12, 13, 18. Srimad Bhagavatam Pranam Amalam Yat Vaisnavnam Priyam. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and His devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association.
So, next week we're going to discuss, I want to discuss this Madhya Lila chapter 19. It's a very important, instructive chapter in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it speaks about this Bhakti Lata Bij, this creeper, that is, the seed of that creeper is planted in the heart, and how it is planted, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving very detailed instructions on how to cultivate this creeper of bhakti. So it's a very nice chapter, so we'll take advantage of this reference by Srila Prabhupada to discuss that in detail next week. So, the pure devotees, what do?
They talk about the pastimes of the Lord.
They speak about the pastimes of the Lord. What else do they do?
Chant.
What are their symptoms? They chant. What are the symptoms of a pure devotee? How nice their tilak is?
They cannot hear or talk anything apart from anything related with Lord Krishna.
That is the symptom of a pure devotee. Mat chitta mat gata prana. Their whole mind is fully occupied by Krishna. And their whole life, their whole existence is Krishna. Now that you cannot fake. Right? That is a symptom you cannot fake. On Halloween, it is coming up. You can pretend to be a doctor by putting on the uniform of a doctor. But it does not make you a doctor. Right? You can put on some clothes and it can make one appear to be something. The symptom of a pure devotee is given here. Machita mat kata prana boreyantas swaram. And what do? Kathayantas. They are always speaking about Krishna. How much they are speaking about Krishna?
24/7.
Nityam. Nityam. Always. And what is the result of that? Tushanti and Lamanti. Bliss and happiness. So this is the characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. Now Prabhupada gives some very vivid examples of how to even we can appreciate this type of attachment to Krishna. And he gives two examples. Anybody care to offer up either one of them? Or
Fish out of water.
fish out of the water. Explain it.
A fish who is out of water cannot live. They cannot breathe. They can't live.
How anxious is a fish out of water? How anxious are we when we are separated from our bead bag? The pure devotee, a moment away from Krishna is like a moment away from water for a fish. That is the depth of experience of a pure devotee. So sweet and blissful and happy is the experience of, what do? Discuss Krishna Katha. Hear Krishna Katha. It's so sweet and blissful that They cannot be separated for even a moment. That is one example. And what is the other example Prabhupada gives?
Chanting Holi.
That is the activity that one just chants.
The young boy and girl.
The young boy and girl. There's no training needed. It just naturally happens. And we know in that realm that the thoughts are fully immersed in each other. You don't even have to try. It just happens. Right? So Prabhupada is giving two very vivid examples. These are mundane examples to help us understand the depth of what pure devotional service is. It's so sweet. Right? So, pure devotees, the characteristics, they engage themselves fully in transcendental loving service. Why not anything else? Huh?
Because they don't really.
What?
Nothing. Because they relate directly with Krishna.
Nothing else gives any happiness. $1 billion. Sanatana Goswami, what did he do with the touchstone? Underneath the garbage heap. What was gold going to give him when he had the holy names on his tongue? He had Krishna dancing on his tongue. What could gold give him? Nothing. Right? The pure devotee, nothing is sweet. They can be in the midst of the material world, no problem. Maya has no scope because their consciousness is fully absorbed. Right? This word mat chitta and mat gata. Whole existence is such that nothing else registers. You know? Kind of like a child playing video games. Child plays video games. House can be on fire. It won't register. You know? Okay? Sometimes like us on our phones, Facebook, WhatsApp, we lose contact. But this is the... So Krishna said, if you know my opulences, this is where it all is. It all resides in me. And so what does a pure devotee do? They just engage themselves in loving service. And so the symptoms of the pure devotee are very clearly given here. Right? They cannot be faked. When Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he explains the 9 symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. You know, sometimes you go to Vrindavan and you'll see, you know, some people, you know, they're dancing and they are crying and this. Is this Bhava Bhakti? Is this ecstatic? We don't know. Don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But Rupa Goswami gives us indistinguishable, clear symptoms. And they're very similar to how this flows. You can't fake this. Right? The mind fully absorbed, the whole existence fully absorbed in Krishna. That is a pure devotee. Has nothing to do with where you were born, has nothing to do with your gender, your age, your race, it has nothing to do with your outward dress. It has to do with your inward purity and consciousness. And here Krishna is given the full symptoms. And Prabhupada opens this purport with this. And how many hours a day they are engaged? 24/7.
Even when they're asleep?
Even when they're asleep. Even when they're asleep, they are thinking of Krishna. The pure devotee actually doesn't go into a material sleep like us. They go into a meditative state, thinking of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada was 24/7 thinking of Krishna. This is the pure devotees. Right? And how to achieve this state? We must water the seed of bhakti. the seed is planted in each of our hearts. It's there. As soon as you utter the name Krishna once, that seed is in your heart. It's there. When the seed is there, the fruit, the potential of the fruit is guaranteed. If you water that seed. If we water the seed, the fruit will come. What is the fruit of this bhakti lata, this bija, this seed that grows into a creeper? And Prabhupada explains it reaches the lotus feet of Krishna. And what is the fruit that comes? That is Krishna prema, love of God. That is the fruit. So to reach this state, deriving great satisfaction and bliss. Anybody is looking for great satisfaction and bliss? That's what we're all aspiring for. This is where it is. And we have understanding that what is the watering process for this plant, this creeper? What is the watering process?
Chanting holy name
Chanting
and
holy name.
talk about Krishna holy name and devotee association.
All of those. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to explain how to nourish this bhakti lata. He's going to speak about watering by the chanting and hearing. Hearing and chanting, he says. He's going to talk about association, putting a fence around your creeper. Like when you put a new plant outside, what do? We put a protective fence around it. So that it is not trampled. So he writes, you should have good association. And then in a garden, what else grows?
Fruits.
Fruits, but what else? Weeds. So he'll also speak about pulling out the weeds. Because if we don't pull out the weeds, what happens to the desired plant? It dies. It becomes overwhelmed by the weeds. So he's going to explain, what are those weeds? The weeds he's going to explain are the anarthas. That's why I'd like, if with your permission, we'll spend next week, we'll discuss this chapter 19. It's a very beautiful section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And some very famous verses are in this chapter. And we'll discuss this Bhakti Lata Bij. It's a really nice chapter. But we know that this is what the pure devotee does now. Right? So convinced that Krishna is the source of everything that there is to desire, devotee comes. Now Prabhupada makes this comment in the second paragraph, first sentence. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself. And in the mature stage, they are actually in love of God. What does that mean?
Well, I think we're experiencing it as newly devotees. We enjoy service and notice that it's very pleasing, very sweet service to Lord Krishna. But eventually it will manifest as pure love for Lord Krishna with time.
Yeah, perfectly put. In the beginning of our devotional service, we are attracted by the pleasure, the reciprocation of Krishna. That's okay, that's good. Because that propels one further into devotional service. And ultimately that matures into pure love, which one even doesn't desire the pleasure from service. One is not even desiring this bliss and happiness in the mature state. But in the preliminary state, that is what inspires us to carry forward, to continue in the service. So we should, enjoy the services. And what's the most enjoyable of all services? Wow, you're all our pure devotees of Lord. What is the most enjoyable?
Eating prasad.
Honoring Krishna. honoring Krishna prasadam. I heard somebody saying earlier, I've never eaten prasadam I didn't like. And it's a pleasure. So Prabhupada said, how much prasadam we should eat? Filled up to our necks. If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is constantly enjoying with his devotees. And what is the central theme of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with his devotees, particularly in Jagannath Puri? There are two things. And? Not reading. Chanting. Chanting and dancing is one. Sankirtan and Prasadam.
Yes.
Sumptuous amounts of. And if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll become hungry. Why? Because so many sweet descriptions of sweet cakes and fried pakoras and this sabji and that. And every time I read, I think, oh, I'm hungry. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is encouraging, honor sumptuous amounts of prasadam. Because that is a nice way of devotional service.
Yes.
But we don't eat prasadam. Honor prasadam. And that brings us to this. We have some few minutes. We can discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita a little bit.
Yes.
So we'll discuss Antya Lila, chapter number 11. This is a very sweet chapter. It is called The Passing of Haridas Thakur. I encourage you all to read this chapter if you can, even tonight when you go home. It's so sweet. It's very short, but the pastimes of Chaitanya Charitamrita are so amazing and so powerful. And so when these days come, it gives us an opportunity to discuss some of these pastimes. So we'll just discuss this. So we'll just chant the pranam prayers for reading Chaitanya Charitamrita first. Before we read, we should always chant these pranam prayers. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so we'll read a few verses from this chapter of Haridas Thakur. So who is Haridas Thakur first? If we're going to discuss the passing of him, we should at least understand who he is first. Who is Haridas Thakur?
Namacharya.
He is Namacharya, which means, what is the meaning of Namacharya?
The teacher of the holy names.
He is the teacher of how to chant the holy names. And what does how does an Acharya teach?
By example.
By example. The meaning of Acharya is one who teaches by example. So he is the Namacharya. Anything? What else we know about Haridas Thakur? Anything we know, no problem. Yes.
In his pastime in Jagannath Puri, he was chanting, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu running prasad, and he didn't know whether to stop chanting or to honor prasad. He honored a little bit of prasad and continued chanting.
Yes. Actually, Govinda brings him that prasad, Mahaprasad. Yes. What else do anything you know about Haridas Thakur?
The number of holy names he chants is, you can't imagine.
A lot. How many rounds? How many names? 300,000 daily. He was chanting. which is about 192 rounds a day.
Yeah.
Anything else about Haridas Thakur? Yeah.
A woman was sent to him to corrupt him, but he saved her and had her start chanting the holy names and purified her.
Yes, Ramachandra Khan was a very envious Jamindar who tried to defame Haridas Thakur when he was staying in Benapole in Bangladesh. And in trying to defame him, he sent one very, attractive prostitute to join in union with him. And how many nights she came? Three consecutive nights. Each time Haridas Thakur said, I will fulfill your desire after I chant my rounds. When the phone call comes, let me finish my rounds, or do we answer? Do we respond, oh, I have to get to it?
Yeah.
Right? He's Acharya. We should not imitate. We cannot imitate Haridas Thakur. But he was not at all allured. But in fact, he gave allurement. He gave the holy names. And how powerful is the hearing of the holy names from a pure devotee? What happened to her?
Purified.
She became a great Acharya herself. She became a pure devotee. Such glorious result of hearing from the pure devotee. This was Haridas Thakur's potency. Right? Any other remembrances of Haridas Thakur here?
Wait, then he chanted 192 rounds. The first, I think, third of his rounds he chanted very loudly. The second, I think he chanted like we chant in a group, softly to ourselves. And the third set he chanted mentally. Is that right?
Yes.
He was beaten in 21 marketplaces and still gave forgiveness to those who beat him.
He was beaten in 22 marketplaces. We missed one. And what was his offense? Chanting the holy names of the Lord. He was beaten severely in 22 marketplaces. Did he die? What was his consciousness while he was being beaten?
Forgive the souls.
Forgive these people who are beating me. Somebody as much as, raises an eyebrow at us and we get fully bent out of shape. He was being publicly beaten in a marketplace. And then another. And then another. But he was not dying. Actually, he was not feeling any pain. Do we have a similar story like this?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus is one. He was crucified. And any other stories? In Srimad Bhagavatam? Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was tormented. Yet, he was fixed very peacefully in his Vishnu Shmaranam. So like this, Haridas Thakur was just chanting. And by the 22nd marketplace, the people who were beating him, they appealed to Haridas Thakur, please die. And why they wanted him to die?
So you don't suffer any more sins.
They said, no, they said that if we don't deliver your dead body to king, he will have our heads. So Haridas Thakur said, okay. And then he feigned his death even, to save the punishment of those who were punishing him, beating him. So that they would be saved, he even pretended to die. Then, and after they showed the king, he's dead. The king said, throw his body in the Ganga. And there he floated down the Ganga to Fuliagat, and from there he came out. And what was he doing? Chanting the holy names of the Lord. And then Chaitanya Bhagavats explained, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing his Mahaprakash Leela, he told Haridas Thakur, Haridas Thakur, when you were being beaten in the 22 marketplaces, why you did not feel anything? Why you were unmarked? And then he removes his chadar and he shows, I had jumped on your back and I had received every one of those lashings. This is the reciprocation, how much love Krishna has for his devotee. That he came and personally took each and every one of those lashes. But why he had to come? He says, I sent my Sudarshana Chakra to destroy all of those people who were beating you. Before the first whip was going to hit, he could have destroyed them all. But the Sudarshana Chakra did not go. Now how Sudarshana Chakra cannot listen to Krishna, his supreme master, the supreme controller. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, he's the source of everything. But the Sudarshana Chakra would not go. It stuck. Krishna saying go, and Chakra did not move. Why the Chakra disobeyed Krishna?
Because the devotee was pleading with Krishna to not harm.
Because Haridas Thakur was begging for the mercy from those who were beating him. And the Chakra knew, even Krishna surrenders to the word of his devotee. This is the deep relationship between Haridas Thakur and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, there are many pastimes of Haridas Thakur. So, but who is Haridas Thakur? We'll spend just a minute. In the Navadip Dham Mahatmya, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur explains that he is an incarnation of Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma stole the calves, and the cowherd boys, for 1 year, and he was performing that pastime, after returning the cows and cowherd boys and calves, he was begging for forgiveness from Krishna, saying that, let me never mistake who you are. And Krishna said, no problem. And then he went on to explain that I'm also coming in this coming age of Kali Yuga. And I'll be coming to spread the holy names. So Lord Brahma decides to go to Antardvip, which is the center island of the 9 islands. And there he performs great austerity and tapasya and chanting. And Chaitanya Krishna says, don't worry, you'll come as my devotee. And you'll be known for the potency of chanting the holy names of the Lord. You'll teach this chanting of the holy names. And Lord Brahma was lamenting, thinking that I should be born in a very low family, so I'll not have the ego to think and to be deluded by Maya. And thus Haridas Thakur, we know, appears in a Mohammedan family. Also in Gaura Gonadesha Deepika, it explains that he is also an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj, and also the son of Richika Muni. So these 3 things given here. So Haridas Thakur had many sweet pastimes. He was a very intimate associate in Navadvip and also in Jagannath Puri. In Navadvip, we know during the Sankirtan movement, he and Lord Nityananda were the chief lieutenants who were propagating the holy names of the Lord. They were the ones who went and tried to deliver Jagai and Madai. That was with Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur and Advaita Acharya had a very nice, sweet relationship with each other. They were very formidable friends. And Advaita Acharya used to, preach to Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur was, because he was from a low family, he always kept distance from the devotees. He never went anywhere. He never went to Jagannath Puri temple. He kept, he would never honor prasad with the devotees because he considered himself to be fallen. When Advaita Acharya did the Shraddha ceremony, the ritual is after the ceremony, you offer the first prasad to the most qualified brahmanas. And so Advaita Acharya called all the great brahmanas of Shantipur and the surrounding areas for this Shraddha ceremony. And after it was done, who he offered the first prasad to? Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was appalled. No, you cannot. Your reputation will be ruined. Your whole ceremony will be ruined. You cannot give me first. I am not a brahmana. I am born in a Muslim family. I cannot accept this. And Advaita Acharya said, feeding you is equivalent to feeding millions of brahmanas. This was the qualification of Haridas Thakur. Very illustrious personality. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri, in earlier part of Antya Lila, whole chapter is dedicated to the glories of Haridas Thakur. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna is not going to glorify a devotee unless they are at form beyond comprehension. But he glorifies to no end the greatness of Haridas Thakur. Now, in this pastime, the passing of Haridas Thakur, we'll see how great a devotee he was, and also how deep Krishna's reciprocation is with his devotees. So every day, because Haridas Thakur would not go into the assembly of devotees, nor would he go inside the temple, he would be outside in chanting in the courtyard, not outside the temple, in another area. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after taking Mangalarati Darshan, would then go immediately and see Haridas Thakur. Every day he would go and see him. And this was his daily ritual. One day, Haridas Thakur was lying flat and Govinda had come. This is you were remembering this pastime of Mahaprasad. So every day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would send Mahaprasad, his remnants, to Haridas Thakur. And so Haridas Thakur was lying flat and very slowly chanting his rounds. And Govinda inquired, what is wrong? I said, I am not feeling well. And he said, I have brought some Mahaprasad. And Haridas Thakur was perplexed. What to do now? He had not finished his rounds, so he thought, I cannot take prasad until I finish my rounds. Yet there is an injunction that as soon as one gets Mahaprasad, they should immediately honor it. Should not wait even a millisecond. So valuable. So Haridas Thakur contemplates for a moment and then honors prasadam by offering a prayer first. We chant this prayer that Bhakti Vinod Thakur has given us, honoring prasadam. Haridas Thakur chants the prayer and just honors a little bit and then continues. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu receives notice that Haridas Thakur is not doing well. He is lying flat and he is chanting very slowly. So the next day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to see Haridas Thakur. And he asks, how are you doing? And Haridas Thakur says, I wanted to read this verse. Haridas offered his obeisances to the Lord and replied, my body is all right, but my mind and intelligence are not well. How his body is all right. He was dying. But he said, what is not well? My mind and intelligence. He says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired from Haridas, can you ascertain what is your disease? Haridas Thakur replied, my disease is that I cannot complete my rounds. We complain of so many diseases. My head hurts, back hurts, I have a cold, I have this, I have that, this. But our only real misfortune, our only real durdevam is no attraction for the holy names. That is our dis-ease. What really puts us at unease is our inability to remain attached to chanting the holy names. That can be our prayer. Being relieved of this affliction, that issue, this issue. Oh Krishna, please give me the taste of your holy names. So Haridas Thakur by Acharya is saying, my body is fine, but my disease is that I cannot complete my rounds. So Haridas Thakur begins to plead with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I know your pastimes are now about to come to an end. So I have one desire. My desire is that I do not have to tolerate the pain of seeing your pastimes end and being separated from you. So I wish that I may leave my body now before you wrap up your pastimes. Please grant me this one benediction. Though I am so fallen and so undeserving of even a glance of yours, please grant me this benediction, that I may leave my body. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies, O Haridas, my entire happiness is coming from my association with you. How I can bear the separation of you leaving before me. Better I go, he's thinking. There's a sweet mood between Krishna and his devotee. And Haridas Thakur thinking, oh, I'm such an important devotee. I'm the source of happiness. Haridas Thakur comments back. I'll read another very sweet verse. He says, my Lord, there are many respectable personalities, millions of devotees who are fit to sit on my head. They are all helpful in your pastimes. My Lord, if an insignificant insect like me dies, what is the loss? If an ant dies, where is the loss to the material world? Do we lament the loss of an ant? But Haridas Thakur was thinking, I am nothing in your pastimes. I am an insignificant ant. So like this, they continue on. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Haridas, just be here. I'll be back tomorrow. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves. He comes back the next day. What is this status? He says, I would like to please fulfill my desire to leave in your presence. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, exactly like? Where else have we seen similar story? Bhishmadev. Right? Who wanted to leave in the presence of Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings all the devotees and they gather around Haridas Thakur who is lying and begins to chant. And Haridas Thakur sits up and he takes the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and puts on his heart. And he is just staring at the beautiful face of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And tears are flowing from his eyes. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so ecstatic. And he is just glorifying Haridas Thakur and glorifying Haridas Thakur to no end. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, as if he had 5 mouths just speaking the glories. And what is the reaction of all the devotees around? They went and were taking the dust from the feet of Haridas Thakur and putting on their head. He is such a glorious devotee. This is the nature of a pure devotee. When an envious devotee hears the glories of someone else, they feel pain. Why this person's glorifying them? Don't they know they did this? Don't they know they did that? Don't they know they did that? That is the nature of an envious heart. But a pure heart, when they see another devotee glorified, they become enthused and enlivened. When all the devotees went into ecstasy, hearing the glories of Haridas Thakur being explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they all went and took the dust of Haridas Thakur's feet. So Haridas Thakur has Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet on his chest, and then he takes the dust from the feet of all the devotees, puts on his heads, and then begins chanting Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, and he leaves this world. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes Haridas Thakur's body onto his lap, and then he begins to dance in an ecstatic kirtan, chanting the holy names of the Lord. He is dancing and dancing with his beloved devotee. And then Saurabh Damodar, says, we should carry on with the rites. And so a nice procession takes place, and they come to the banks of the ocean, on the beach, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself washes the body of Haridas Thakur. He did not let anybody else do it. He himself washed the body. And then a hole was dug just on the beach there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put the body of Haridas Thakur in the samadhi, and personally with his own hands was offering sand and filling. This samadhi is still there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there declared, anyone who takes bath in this water is blessed. These are holy waters because they have touched the body of Haridas Thakur. Still to this day, devotees, when they will will take bath and then have darshan and parikrama of Haridas Thakur's samadhi in Puri. Anybody has been? You all desire to go today and see the very auspicious. You have been?
No, which water is this, Guru?
This is the ocean, on the banks of Puri.
It's in Jagannath Puri.
Yeah.
It's not in.
It's in Jagannath Puri. Yeah. So, like this, I wanted to read a few more verses. So you can see the reciprocation between Krishna and his devotee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally performed, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this benediction. Anyone who has seen the festival of Sri Haridas Thakur's passing away, anyone who has chanted and danced here, anyone who has offered sand on the body of Haridas Thakur, and anyone who has joined this festival to partake of the prasadam will achieve the favor of Krishna very soon. There is such a wonderful power in seeing Haridas Thakur. Being merciful upon me, Krishna gave me the association of Haridas Thakur. Being independent in his desire, he has now broken that association. When Haridas Thakur wanted to leave this world, it was not within my power to detain him. Simply by his will, Haridas Thakur could give up his life and go away exactly like Bhishma, who previously died simply by his own desire, as we have heard from Shastra. Haridas Thakur was the crown jewel on the head of this world. Without him, this world is now bereft of its valuable jewels. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told everyone, say all glories to Haridas Thakur and chant the holy names of Hari. Saying this, he personally began to dance. Everyone began to chant all glories to Haridas Thakur, who revealed the importance of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami gives now us the benediction. Thus I have spoken about the victorious passing of Haridas Thakur. Anyone who hears this narration will certainly fix his mind firmly in devotional service to Krishna. What was Prabhupada's wish for us at the end of the 8th purport? Be fixed firmly. And now Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami has given us this benediction. Thus I have spoken about the victorious passing away of Haridas Thakur. Anyone who hears this narration will certainly fix his mind firmly in devotional service to Krishna. So, everyone can read this in full detail, please. It's very nice. Chapter 11 until 11. If you're interested, you also read the chapter on the glories of Haridas Thakur. So that was yesterday's, and today again is the 60th year of Srila Prabhupada taking sannyas. In 1959, he took sannyas in Mathura on Bhadra Purnima Day in a very glorious way. One of the unique circumstances of the sannyas ceremony. Keshav Maharaj was performing the sannyas ceremony, and he is seated on Vyasasana. Prabhupada is seated in front of the fire sacrifice next to one other very senior elderly devotee who was also taking sannyas. And he asked Prabhupada to give the lecture. It was Bhakti Vedanta. It was Bhakti Vedanta. And so he, in a very humble way, also recognizing the great significance of Srila Prabhupada, he asked him to give. So you can go and see this Gaudiya Math in Mathura. Anybody has been? It's a nice temple on the second floor. You can go, and this is where Srila Prabhupada took sannyas, and then from there, really, from that point until 1965, prepared for his journey west, from which we are all the great beneficiaries of. So that happened today on Bhadra Purnima, which is also it is said the day that Vishwarup also took sannyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother. Although there are a couple of stories related to that. So, anyways, full week of activities. So, any comments or questions before we end? Yeah.
Where is Mathura located in India?
In Vrindavan, next to Vrindavan, Mathura district, yeah.
You mentioned earlier about injunction about Mahaprasad must be honored immediately. Is there like Shastric reference to that, or?
Yeah, there's much evidence. There are many pastimes about that, about the glories of Mahaprasad. But yeah, and Srila Prabhupada gave us, very clear indications, and that's why we also be careful not to offer Mahaprasad that's non-Ekadashi and Ekadashi, because technically one should take it. But yeah, there's quite a bit of Shastric evidence on because it is direct mercy of Krishna. We are fortunately spoiled by the abundance of prasada. But sometimes in that abundance we fail to appreciate its importance and significance. We fail to understand that this is direct mercy of the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada started this movement on prasad. It's so potent. So, and that is why it's very important that we chant these prasadam prayers. But if we don't speak Bengali, we should read the English. It's more important. Because we should understand what these prayers are saying, that my senses are a network of paths leading to death. My tongue is most voracious and uncontrollable of all. But thankfully Krishna has given us this prasad to help us control this most inconquerable tongue. And in love we call out for the help of Krishna and Chaitanya. So, we should understand the purport for this, because then it helps us appreciate what is this prasad. Because this tongue, it must be controlled. It's very voracious. It's the most voracious of all senses. So, and Haridas Thakur, gives us again by Acharya, honoring. The verse says he honored the Mahaprasad. that Govinda had brought. Yes, Prabhu.
How can we like avoid blaming external circumstances for not, for like the same like Haridas Thakur was saying, diseases and I'm not able to complete my rounds. In the same way, how can we go from blaming external circumstances to realizing that if the more determined we are, we'll be able to chant our rounds?
Yeah, by seeing and observing the strength of devotion around us, we can think, okay, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the point of association.
Yeah.
Is to become inspired by and to help propel us forward. You know, association isn't here to gossip.
Right.
It's here to inspire us in devotion. Right? So we become inspired by, wow, this person's remaining fixed in there. I can do it too. Right? And ultimately, if you study the life of Srila Prabhupada, you will give up all excuses. If you read Prabhupada Lilamrita, which every devotee of ISKCON, I can say, must read Prabhupada Lilamrita, it's so important. Then you will give up all excuses. When you see he had every opportunity to give up. Yeah. And some parts of it are just tear-jerking. So much difficulty. And whatever we face is like nothing. Right. Nothing. So by studying that, it inspires us. Oh, I can do it. And then we seek out the shelter. Yeah. Remember, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says one thing. Whatever is difficult becomes easy if you surrender the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whatever is difficult becomes easy by surrendering the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But whatever is easy becomes difficult if you don't. He says that. So whatever we find difficulty, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please help me. Gaura Mahaprabhu is waiting to help. Yes.
Well, I have zero authority in this realm. However, I heard a discourse by Giriraj Swami, and he mentioned that the most best thing for him in completing his bhakti and his rounds was going to bed early and waking up early, so that you have all that extra time to complete your service.
Yeah. Rise early to bed, early to rise, right? That's what the saying is. But early morning japa is the best. It is the most potent. And we often say we don't have time, but in reality, we're chanting our rounds. So by chanting in the morning, you're not using more time, you're just reshuffling the deck, reshuffling the time, right? And if you give Krishna the first few hours of your day, you see how he gives you the rest of it. It's very powerful. And if you make a commitment to it, Krishna will reciprocate. He will give you the strength, he'll give you the clarity, the ease to be able to take rest early. And there's lots of injunctions, you take your prasad early. Then you can rest early. Then you need less rest. Then you rise early, chant. It's very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. That's why we have a morning japa call too, in association, of which our stalwarts are here. So, anything else?
For getting up,
Yeah.
For getting up early, I just want to know. For getting up early, what time is the prescribed time to eat on a prasadam in the evening, so that when the family we can all us together can do that. How does, with your experience, you will be knowing, so you can share with us.
I mean, it's a little individual, but the the recommended is 3 hours before taking rest. If you finish taking prasad, your body digests before you take rest. Because if you are digesting while you're resting, your body has to work. So it doesn't go into full rest mode. And thus you need more rest. So the ideal from an Ayurvedic standpoint and from is you take your prasad and then 3 hours and you drink plenty of fluids, you take rest, and then in the morning you're actually rested with less amount of hours needed. Sleep is a total waste of time. Can we at least agree with that? It's needed, it's an absolute necessary. I'm not suggesting it's not necessary, but it's a waste of time. So the question is, okay, what can I do to minimize the need for rest while maintaining the effectiveness of the body? Because if the body is not functioning, then you'll not chant properly anyways. Right? So you need to rest the body. So some of these things are good. Eating healthy foodstuffs is part of getting good rest. The body needs less energy to digest healthy, nutritious foods. So that's also part of it. Our Indian diet is very nice that our big meal is at lunch. The dinner is a light meal, but unfortunately everything's flipped. No breakfast on the go, take some Gokul tea, office something light, and dinner, Chappan Bhog feast. Right? That's actually, but again, we have to be practical also, what's like doable within the realm of, the way our world is set up. So, but those are some, the earlier we can take prasad and take rest, and every person needs a different amount of rest. Also, we can't, you can get into these sort of, fanatical, sort of ideas, and Srila Prabhupada rested 2 hours a day. We cannot imitate that. That is the empowered devotee. Sakshat Haritvena is empowered by Hari. Right? So that, but we can try to follow some of the injunctions. So. Yes.
I think there's a devotee Srila Prabhupada mentioned as glorified, Srila Prabhupada glorified, because he used to eat, not let any prasadam go to waste. He used to eat all the prasadam. Do you remember his name?
I don't. So please relish this Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you have not read Chaitanya Charitamrita, please do. There's so many beautiful pastimes here that we can understand how to apply. So next week we'll discuss chapter 19 of Madhya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Chant.